Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier with a second presentation on League of Nations source questions. And this is the second most popular question asked, and a really important question for historians to ask of a source too. How useful is it? First thing to say is read the question carefully. Read all questions carefully. How useful is this source as evidence about the Japanese in Manchukuo? Explain your answer using details of the source and your knowledge. These useful questions will always identify what the source may be useful for. In this question, it's about the Japanese occupation of Manchuria. And we are instructed, not invited, to use the source and our knowledge. So be sure you are clear about your focus and your instructions. There's a little more to come on this on the next slide. Now this is a Japanese piece of propaganda, and so of course it is biased. It's not telling us that the Mukden incident was fabricated by the Japanese. It's not telling us anything about the cruelty of the Japanese in Manchuria. And it's worth saying that, but very briefly, because the question is asking, how useful is this source? That is, in what ways is the source useful? So we have to explain how it is useful. In what ways it is useful. What does it tell us? What do we learn from it? And biased sources can be extremely useful. I cannot emphasize that enough. In fact, sometimes a source's bias is what makes it useful. So what are we told? It's a poster to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Mukden incident. Think of the word celebrate. What are the Japanese celebrating? Use any explanation of a source that you might be given. It's there to be helpful. The bits below the source may be something written on the source. Use it all. So, what have we got to work with here? Well, it's a victorious reaction to a perceived affront to the Japanese, the Mukden incident. A war that led to the capture of Manchuria, renamed Manchukuo by the Japanese. A territory that gave them raw materials, farmland, and as the poster shows, a place for Japanese to settle and make a good life for themselves. Something the Japanese government felt was desperately needed. And the poster is celebrating 5 years of this occupation. You can now make direct use of the poster, which of course shows a young Japanese family in Manchukuo. And what impression does the poster give? A peaceful, rural Manchukuo, bathed under blue skies. Why not be poetic? Just don't get carried away. A hard-working family, happy and prospering, making a success of their opportunity. Crops growing in the background. Far removed from the actual aggressive nature of Japanese occupation. And so finally, for the Japanese government, remember this is a piece of propaganda, it celebrated the success of their aggressive foreign policy. But don't forget to answer the question, how useful? It is essentially asking for an explanation, but I would always end this kind of question with a sentence that gives my assessment. Not particularly useful, quite useful, very useful, extremely useful. It doesn't have to be more profound than that, but it will clinch another mark for you. So there you go. I have 13 past league source papers in my collection. I think I have that many. And we can work through these in tutorials if you think you would benefit from that. You should know how to get in touch with me by now if you've listened to other presentations. But anyway, I hope this little presentation was useful for you. Thank you as always for listening, and the best of luck with your studies. Remember, paper 2 is your friend. It's a winner for you. Cheers. Well done, Puskin, for not making any noise. Good gal.